I know some of you. I'm Amanda Hager. I'm the grad assistant for OISS. And we have a collaboration going on between us and career development. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Kristen Murphy. I am from the Career Development Center on the St. Paul campus, and I'm a career coach.
And I'm Marcy Jerks, and I'm a career coach for the business school here on the Minneapolis campus. And I think we're having more students come up. You know, so happy to meet all of you.
I know everybody. Thank you all for coming, and thank you panelists joining us today. Please use this opportunity to ask lots of questions to them. Hope you enjoy. Thank you all.
Great. So our kind of layout that we had here is the first part is going to be the alumni panel, and then the next part is going to be a networking event, and we'll explain what that looks like when we come to the time. Okay, so we have our alumni here. They're going to introduce themselves, obviously, but this way you can refer back and see kind of what their experience is and where they work. So we're going to start, but I feel weird all the way over here. I'm going to move closer to you guys. Okay, so if you want to just start, what we're going to do is have you guys introduce yourselves, tell us your name, the degree you earned, and your current position and employer, and maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that experience of getting hired.
Sure.
Thanks.
I don't know everything you said, but I'll go for it. My name is Latifa Kiribeda. I'm originally from Uganda. I graduated from the University of St. Thomas, I believe, May 2016, so that would be last year, although it seems like forever. I could not remember where TMH was. You did not hear that, Margie. I found my way and I had to go ask someone, is TMH this one or do I have to go near the library? Very embarrassing. It seems like, and I do come here often actually sometimes, but not this side for whatever reason. My degree was the full-time MBA program. I had a special interest in business analytics, so I have a business analytics certificate with my MBA. For those of you who are career changers, I'm a career changer. I had not had any experience doing business. My first degree is a public health degree, and although I did my undergraduate in the US, I decided to actually go back home and work in Uganda. So clearly I came back from Uganda, came back here, did my MBA, and I was still able to land an opportunity. So even if you're a career changer, I think it's pretty telling that there are opportunities for you out there, and I guess that's why we are here, to talk a little bit more about that. I work as a consumer operations analyst for a medical device company called Coloplast. It's a Danish company, but our North American headquarters are here in Minneapolis, so this is where I work. So we have business in the US and Canada as well. Yeah, I think that's a good start.
Awesome.
Would you say?
Thanks.
Cool.
So my name is Yabing Yang, the last one on the list. I'm originally from China, graduated in the summer of 2015 with a degree in actuarial science, bachelor degree. So I am not a career changer at all. I knew I wanted to learn actuarial science before I applied to St. Thomas, and then now I'm obviously an actuary after graduation. So my company, it's called One Beacon Insurance Group. We locate in Plymouth. So we do property and casualty specialty insurance, insurance. So you probably have like auto insurance or homeowners or rental. We don't do those. We do like what we call specialty, because we only deal with the business people or their company. So that's why probably you have not heard about us, but we recently got into a merger with the largest P&C company in Canada. So because of that, next year, all of us will get to go to Quebec City in Canada, and now I have to think about how I figure out my visa situation, but I'm looking forward to it. So that's it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chantal Carobaez, just right above Deming. I am from Dominican Republic, and I graduated from St. Thomas 2016. I had a double major, bachelor degree in business management, leadership, and psychology. And now I'm actually in IT, so complete difference than what I studied. And I'm at 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing in St. Paul. Not a lot of mining anymore. It's mostly manufacturing, healthcare, consumer products. You might know Scotch-Brite, Post-its, those kind of products. And I do IT compliance and controls. So we work with systems like SAP, Workday, Salesforce, you might know them, and make sure that everything is compliant. So I manage developers and different teams for that.
Hi, I'm Samuel Villone, second one up there. I'm an electrical engineer at this company called Park Industries. They make machinery that basically cuts slabs of granite, basically, and for kitchens, for architectural. We've done some stuff for St. Thomas, and just the designs that you see on the logo, and like everything that's done in stone, we've done through our machines. So I designed those machines, and we built those machines. Right now, I'm just working. I just graduated recently in 2017, actually this year, and yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Hello everyone, I'm Neil. I graduated last year in 2016 with major in data science from the Graduate School of Software. Currently I'm working with US Bank as a data analyst in the Enterprise Research Analytics team. And I'm lucky to be part of one of the big initiatives of the bank, which is diversity and inclusion. So I support all the analytics work for all diversity and inclusion project in the bank. So we do bank realized that as a company, it's important to understand the diverse customer and build up a diverse workforce. So I support the BRG, which is targeted towards the African American community, Hispanic community, Asian community, and also the LGBT community. So overall, it has been a great experience for me, coming to this country and then landing into this job, and then recently the bank also sponsored my H-1B, so it was also a great experience. Now I'm from a full-time student to a immigrant worker here.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Neil. There's a few of you that have H-1B, correct?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to speak on that, since Neil brought it up, about how that looked? You said you just got sponsored, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got it this year, so it's effective from October 1st of this year.
And did you approach them, or did they approach you?
So I started working with a bank as a contract employee, because the bank has a policy that they cannot make employees full-time until and unless their program is over. So I completed my program officially on December 21st of last year, and December 22nd I became the full-time employee with the bank. And then they started processing my sponsorship, and then the petition got filed early this year, and then I got the approval for around August or something. Yeah.
So for the H1, do you ask your manager you wanted to get sponsored, or did they automatically did it just because it's a big company?
So the thing is that the role in which I was initially, that role didn't have a scope of sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I had to find a role which has the funding for that, because it depends on role specific how critical that role is, and they have enough budget or not, because sponsoring H-1B is an expensive thing for the company. So if the role is not that critical, or they feel that they have enough people in the company to take care of that role, they might not be open to sponsor. So when I was trying to find a position in the bank which has sponsorship, so I just talked to people in the bank, in various teams, and then I identified the team which is open to sponsor, and then identify the roles which will be critical for me to support that requirement. Diversity and inclusion, the project I work on, it also ties up with the experience I have. I work in not only in India, I was also working in Middle East with very different cultural context and very diverse kind of customer base. So that experience also added that it strengthened my role, justification for my position in that role. Yeah.
One question. So, what do you would suggest for us, joining a country before, many of companies now not willing to do H-1B visa.
So I think to start off, it's important to have some base of experience, because a company cannot go ahead and sponsor your H-1B on day one.
So,
they need to know how good you are. You have to prove yourself at some extent, and then also it depends on how open that company is in terms of accepting people from outside country, because a lot of companies, they might not want to get into that domain. So it depends on the company, I think.
Or I guess it depends on you, because my manager told me, because we have to go out to a career fair, and then for our company we always say we don't sponsor any international student, but it's going to be awkward for me to say that. So she said the answer is no, but there can always be an exception. So you want to be the exception. How do you prove that? You know, this is the time when not just only depends on the company.
To join a company first, rather than thinking of they will sponsor or not.
Yeah, so I'll tell you my story a little bit also. I think I will tell you, I don't know whether emotional journey is the right thing to say, but the journey of an international student is not in black and white. That was also, I think, comparable to the journey of any immigrant in this country. Is not black and white. There are so many laws, so many obstacles, so many things in the way. And if you choose to see that and only hear that narrative, you will not push yourself to reach out for the opportunities that you're here for. Especially, I think, in this political climate, and that's why I'm really happy, you know, for you to have a job in 2017. I think if you're listening, like now, I read news, listen to NPR every morning, and all the executive orders coming out from our current president, nothing is very pro-immigrant friendly, that if you choose to listen to that and just feed that energy and not do anything about your situation, you will not advance. In my situation, my company has never sponsored an H-1B. It has never seen an African working for them ever. It had never heard of H-1B before. In fact, before I applied to them, there is a really great student who was above me from India who had applied to Coloplast, and they had said no, and they said we don't sponsor. So when I was looking around and asking, the response from that student, based on her experience, she said, Coloplast, don't bother, those ones, they don't sponsor, right? But I still went for it, and I applied for the internship program, right? So I got my MBA internship through Coloplast. I worked for them. My goal was not to be like, yeah, now I'm an intern, give me a job. Nope. I did my internship. We were 7 people. They had never hired St. Thomas before either. All the interns they would hire were from the University of Minnesota. I remember it was me and my good friend Eric Stapleton. At the end of the summer internship, HR said, thank you, we don't hire people part-time. We hope you loved your experience. Keep looking at our website when you graduate. It was nice meeting all of you. And so everybody was supposed to leave. For me, the following week, this Danish guy came to my desk and said, yeah, you've really done some really great things. Would you like to join my team? And I said, oh, I'd love to have coffee with you. Yeah, sure. And so, I mean, randomly, and HR had already told us we are leaving, but because of the quality of my work and someone who knew that they still wanted me to work on other things, and he was even in a different department, but heard of my work, knew of my work. And I met with him, and he said, yeah, I'll get you a contract. Are you able to? I'm like, yeah, I can work. I'll go to school, and I'll be able to work. So that's how I got to stay. And everybody else, all the 6 people were let to go at the end of their internship. I'm the only one who stayed.
So one question that I have.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not telling that story because it's miraculous, but it's because I'm telling you there is not one way. There is not... You need to put yourself out there and go for it. You know,
Thank
you
you guys, it's really inspiring.
I think to add to Latifa's point, like sponsorship is also like, I think it's driven by your manager. Your manager has to believe in you, because when a company is sponsoring you, like it goes through your leadership team, and then your leadership team has to convince HR that I'm hiring this person because I believe in that person. And at the same time, the funding comes from the business line, it's not HR's funding. So you have to like impress your manager and prove yourself that, yeah, I'm worthy of getting that sponsorship.
I'm definitely an example of that, because when I went to the career fair, I talked to my current manager, and she was the one who talked to me right in my face, saying, sorry, we don't sponsor an international student. But then I said, that's okay, I still want to know about your company. And so then we had a really pleasant conversation, and somehow, like when I have to do a presentation about a new fraternity that our team is trying, well, at school in St. Thomas, trying to get some fundraising, and my manager, she was, you know, one of our audience. And so we then connected again, and then she also heard some good things about me from my professor, thanks to him. So then they decided to invite me to their company, gave a final round interview, skipping the first round. And so that's how I land my job right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Sorry I'm late. There was an accident. My name is Shri. I graduated this year, and I'm currently working with International Dairy Queen as a senior business analyst. I did my master's in software management here, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Those are wonderful. I think what I'm hearing is like, prove yourself, find a way in, don't take no for an answer necessarily. You know, be
Yeah.
smart about your choices, right? And that's
Yeah.
true everywhere. And I think that ties nicely into our networking portion too. It's all about who you know and who do you impress, right? Especially with you, right? Some right or bad. So I would love to hear from you guys. What surprised you most about the American workplace, and did your expectations match reality?
We'll let you go first.
Well, in an ideal world, everything would match to your reality. But the fun part is, as you go through and meet people, you always come up with something very surprising, sometimes intriguing, but most of the times you just feel surprised with the things you learn. My key for learning about American work culture is just go out, meet people for coffee. You will always be welcomed, and don't shy away. Just go out and have a conversation with people. It'll go a long way. Yeah.
I can follow up to that. This is a little more specific to just the general American culture that really surprised me. So I'm Latina, and I've worked in the Dominican Republic, and in the United States work culture, things that I'm used to being a little more formal were less formal, and what was usually informal was formal. So let me explain what I mean by that. So I call my boss by his first name, and he has like 37 people that report to him. And when you meet directors and all these really important people, you introduce yourself, and everything's on a first name basis, which for me was very different than my culture. And I still am very uncomfortable with that. I feel like I'm being disrespectful even sometimes when I am talking to my manager. I'm like, hey, Henrik, should I go to this meeting? So it's a little odd, but you get used to it. And one thing that I can say, I felt a little uncomfortable, as I mentioned, but you kind of just need to follow the crowd. And I don't mean that as in like, oh, if everyone's doing this and it gives you a bad feeling, do it too. No. But if you see that everyone acts a certain way, just, you know how you have all done it. Just try to adapt, even though it's a little confusing. And the other thing that I mean was a little more formal is in the Dominican Republic, everything's very like laid back. You do your work. Here, and I'm sure you guys have had the same experience, there's just very specific standards and policies and procedures, this big emphasis on career development and training, which is amazing. And I didn't have that back home at all. My manager continues the conversation about where do you want to go? And even if that means that's outside my current team, he's very supportive of it. And he connects me with so many people outside my organization to get to what my dream job is or whatnot. So I don't know, that was really surprising. It's not just about do your work and just see you later. It's, okay, let's work hard, let's develop ourselves, and let's help you grow.
Thanks. Any other oddities you found in the American workplace?
I think like overall for me, like the experience has been great so far. I think what I felt like people respect each other a lot as individuals, and like you are not discriminated just because you are not American. Look, when I joined my team, like out of 80 people in the team, like I'm the only one who's not American. So I never felt that I'm not part of the team. Like, and also like I think organizations here has a great emphasis on learning and development. So you can always learn and develop your skills. And when you like are in an organization, you're never restricted to certain job roles. You can always develop yourself, move to another job role. Like for an example, like I was working in one team, and like I met someone and she said like, she's a business analyst. She said, I was a hairdresser. I said like, wow, you were like hairdresser, you became a business analyst? Like in India, like you will be cutting hair for the rest of your life. You can never So she said, yeah, I started with an admin job, then I like developed my skills, I went to school, I did more stuff, and then I slowly developed my skill, and the bank like helped me to do that, and now I'm like business analyst. I'm really happy about it. So I think this is the like beauty of this country. Like if you want to grow, if you want to learn, there's always a way to do that. So.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'll say, for me, I don't know if it's so much surprise as much as evolving and learning. There are two important things that I've learned about in the American workplace. In Uganda, you know, instead of I got a job here with the State Department, but instead I chose to go back to Uganda. I wanted to make a difference, and I was just on fire after my first degree. But when I got home, and I worked for the United States Agency for International Development, a lot of bureaucracy, you know, like you want to go make a difference with mothers and communities and so on. But when I got there, the shock was, you know, in an American education, especially a liberal arts education, you speak up, you know, if things are not working right or you see something wrong, you speak up, right? In some of our cultures, when you speak up and there is like a boss and a boss's boss, it can be interpreted as being disrespectful. So for me, I didn't know any of that. So if someone was saying something, it doesn't make sense, or the number says something different, I would talk. And for the first couple of months, I was really in trouble a lot because I was disrespectful, quote unquote, because I would call out people if what they were saying was just not in the best interest of what we were trying to accomplish. And that was part of the frustration for saying, this is not good for me, for my career development, and I decided to come back to school. But at Coloplast, I learned that it's more of a flat organization. So it doesn't matter if there is a director or VP or some manager there, as long as you have the knowledge that other people don't have and it's helping you achieve the goal, speak up and say, oh, no, actually based on an analysis I did last week, here is what I found and here's what I think we should be able to do. So I really, especially for those of you who come from cultures like ours that look down upon people who speak up, here you need to speak up, because if you don't, no one knows what you think and no one will know that you know anything. It's very awkward at first, I think, because it's almost, you know, but after some time you get used to it and you know, if I know something, there is an opportunity for a meeting, put yourself out there in terms of hierarchy versus those kinds of dynamics. The second thing is a can-do attitude. All of you are in school, so you know some professors who will give you like this project where you're like, holy crap, where am I going to start with this? And then you shock yourself 3 days later, and you have a great paper, and you nail it, and you have an A, and you don't even know what happened. Work is kind of the same. Sometimes people come up with things that they want you to do, and you have no idea where to start. Think of that just like any project you have in school where it's so big, you don't know what you're going to do, you freak out a little. Then you zone in, listen to some music, or do whatever you have to do, and you actually get it done. Just don't start airing out all the things that you can't do and don't know, right? It's the same thing at work. When they give you something, say, yeah, oh, I'd be more than happy to look into that. Or, you know, don't overpromise, but also always be willing to go and give it a stab. Because you have a lot of people who have knowledge more than you do. So you have a lot of people you can, just like school, you will be able to figure it out. All I'm saying is, learn how to have a can-do attitude or a positive attitude. So when they say, oh, Latifa, do you think you can, even when you don't know, you say, yeah, I'm more than happy to look into that. At first, for me, that used to be hard because I would tell them exactly what I think and exactly what I think would not be possible. And with time, as I learned, I'm like, oh, I am a quick analytic person, so I very quickly can say, okay, this is possible, this is not possible, here is why. But in that moment, people don't know what the hell you're doing. They care about results, quality work, so just show them that you're willing to go for it and do it. So when you get that reputation that, oh yeah, you want things done, just reach out to this person. So have that can-do attitude, if that makes sense.
Just a quick note on that. I read an article yesterday that said that in the United States, where Caucasian male are usually promoted based on potential.
Yes.
Minorities are promoted based on accomplishments. So if you have that can-do attitude and you always drive to show results and do the best you can do, we need to prove ourselves more than the rest of the team, right? So out of the 79, you need to do even more because you need to set that standard, right? So, yeah.
That's good.
So, since some of you guys talked about your H-1B process, I missed that part, that's okay. If we could hear from Chantal and Sam and Sri about maybe your biggest challenges when you were trying to find a job, that would be interesting, I think, for everybody.
So I was hesitant to speak on this because I had a very different, unique, way easier experience than anyone else here probably. I was able to get my citizenship because of some long distance family relatives. So I got my American citizenship in college, and when I did go to interviews and they heard my slight accent and they heard I was from the Dominican Republic, be like, the first question within the first 5 minutes they would ask, do you need sponsorship? If you do, then like it was just like, I don't know, it was like the rest of the interview would have been based on that. So it was really scary, but it's going to be scary because you're going to get that question all the time. I was very blessed, very lucky. However, I did have to work with all my friends and around with all my other friends that did have all those struggles, and there's some crazy stories. One of my really good friends, she was actually she was serving at a restaurant, and she was really down because she couldn't figure out the sponsorship. And she had some really good discussions with a lady that she was serving at the restaurant, and she volunteered to sponsor her. I know she works at Target Corporation. So what everyone has talked here about making connections and just being really kind, really genuine all the time, and just being honest and hardworking, it'll go a long way. You never know what can happen. Never.
For me, I couldn't get my citizenship or anything like that. But it wasn't as difficult or as hard as I thought it would be. So I was my senior year. I was done with my fall semester, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, now I gotta find a job, and this is gonna be like really difficult. And I had heard about this OPT program, which is really, really something that is helpful to everybody, which I think was a huge resource for me because it made me go into interviews with saying I don't need sponsorship right now, or like, and as me being an electrical engineer in the STEM program, you can go almost 3 years without needing sponsorship, which was adequate enough time for me to like show that I'm worth sponsorship, or show that I want to be sponsored, or that I'm willing to be like go the extra mile for you guys. So the OPT was, when I went into interviews, was the real big thing, but mostly for me was I took a random class in my J-term year and my J-term semester, and I was taking, it's called it was a development class, basically a leadership class, and I had nothing to do, really nothing to do, it's technology management basically, and it had nothing to do with my electrical, it was an elective. And one of my professors, as he saw my work, and he was like, well, we're looking for a couple of electrical engineers, would you guys, I had another friend, and would you guys be interested in coming down for an interview? So he set us up, and he was we found out he was the VP of engineering at the company. So right. So that ended up, that like put us, anytime you can get through HR is the best time for you, because HR has all these requirements that anytime you apply online, they have all these, like you could be scratched out or like not even considered, just applying online, like having a face-to-face conversation. She said getting coffee is like the best way, and my connections is what got me here. So I think right after like my first interview, I was already, like they were already talking about like hiring me and everything, and I went in and I was like, I don't need sponsorship, I just need you guys after 3 years to see where we're at. So that was my typical conversation, and that was, the OPT has been a really big help for me, because it's like I got my foot in the door now. Now I can go in and say like, okay, and this is what I can do, and this is my worth to this company. And for 3 years now I don't need sponsorship, so that was a different conversation for me. And when I was going in to talk to, like, they were very willing to talk to me about sponsorship after I'd started working for them. They're like, what can we do? Like, after these couple years, we're thinking we want to sponsor you. So, like, that is the main thing. So, like, use your resources is, for me, what worked. And your connections is really what gets you through the door. So
one question that I have, I'm an electrical engineering major.
Yeah.
I've taken classes with you.
yeah.
So the first thing we struggle with whenever you apply online, the first thing, like, this is a definite question that, would you need sponsorship? Now or in future?
Yes, that little
See,
question.
that's the question. So even if you say no, you're basically lying. If you say yes, you're dead in the water.
Right.
So how do you deal with that? During an interview, if anyone asks you, like, would you need sponsorship? How do you deal with that question?
When I was going into, okay, so applying online was very difficult, and I came up like empty on most of like my online applications, but then I would call up people and like email them and like be like, hey, I'm really interested in like doing this, and would you be interested? I just want to know more about the job. Really, like, it wasn't like I want this job. It was more like, I want to know more about your company, what you guys do, and like, that was the way I got coffee with some people that were in these positions. And once I got the coffee, it was, they saw like their interaction, and then I explained to them, I don't need any sponsorship. I don't need anything from you guys for the next 3 years, right? So, which for the next year, which it gets into semantics. A company has to be e-verified for you to work for 3 years for them without sponsorship, but that is also another topic I could talk about later. But
a lot of these companies say that, like, be truthful, right?
yeah,
So even when you say yes, technically, like, your application should get under review, but you get a rejection within a few minutes.
right.
So
Here's what I'll say. I had an experience with that, and I battled with that ethical question
Yeah.
a lot. One of the things that I resolved to do, you know, some of us I wear my heart on my sleeve. I tell you as it is. I want to, but sometimes too much is not in your best interest. You know, think a lot of you, I think, have gone through the visa interview process at the embassy. Answer what you are asked, right? So when you're asked one question and then you start telling stories and strings of stories, they open cans of worms for things that you should not be answering, right? So what I learned, and again, it's dependent on the situation, especially when you get like first time career fair, or if you manage to get your foot through the door for an interview, don't bring it up unless someone else asks it. That's the one thing I learned. Just because we are self-conscious and we know about it, sometimes you find yourself blurting it even when you've not been asked. Or if you're asked, do you need sponsorship? I would start saying, no, I don't need sponsorship. I am able to work. I can start tomorrow to do my internship for my MBA. So do you need sponsorship in the future? Then you can, you know what I mean? Like, it seems very tactical, but in the applications, I know I struggled with that as well. Answering, do you know something about in the future?
Now or in the future.
Yeah, I have to say I used to put yes, and a lot of those applications did not yield very much. But you're better off being honest than not honest. But if you get FaceTime, I would say don't bring it up and dwell on it. Always twist the conversation back to, I'm more than happy to start. I really love that you provide ABCDFG. Here is my experience. Like, there is not one way, but I know I've gone through it, and some have been black and white. No, others have been. I've been able to get away with continuing the conversation. But it's tough.
Well, you know, there's another way of dealing with it too. Have you ever thought about going to look for companies that would interest you rather than the jobs in particular? Because there are companies out there, as much as people say that they don't want visas, there are companies that doesn't believe in the whole visa system, that believes in pure talent and diversity.
Yes.
So just go on to LinkedIn and, you know, electrical engineering major, just hit the little search button and look for electrical companies. Reach out to recruiters and ask if they do any visa sponsorship. You know, connect on LinkedIn is a great tool, seriously.
Yes.
And then ask them, or you know, like everyone was saying, just go meet them for a coffee and say, talk about your skill set. And if there is a job opportunity coming up in the near future, they would definitely keep you in their mind. That is for sure. So just don't stick to one particular job, because jobs are never permanent.
That I agree with. Like, it's not that I'm sticking with just one company. Like, I have applied to plenty of them.
Here's the thing.
I've been talking to like a lot of the recruiters.
Well,
so no positive feedback. So.
with job, this is my experience with job, is work on something that is under your control, in the sense of go meet a recruiter because that is under your control. You can believe or you can depend on this automated job application system. Over that, it's smart enough to go out and reach to a person, because that will make a whole lot of difference. So try doing that. Maybe that'll help.
In that department, like first, like whoever hires like new students, new employees, they are one of the most busiest people like working. So getting a hold of them and going for a coffee is not easy. That's the first thing.
Well, you know,
I mean,
let's just not focus on one company at a time, okay?
I'm just saying, like in general, like it's not that easy to like get a hold of like that person.
Yeah.
They're all busy. They're all managers.
Can I ask you an honest question, and this is not to put you on the spot,
Yeah.
right? How many companies, don't make it up, just be honest, right? And I don't know if you're looking now. How many companies have you applied to or attempted to do that with? Honest answer.
Honest answer?
Honest answer.
More than 200.
More than 200.
Have you shown up in any career fair?
First of all, like engineering students at St. Thomas, graduate students, don't have any career resources, so we don't get access to career fairs.
See, that's the problem, because
See,
I feel like...
That's the problem I've been dealing with. Second thing, like splitting up connections, especially like being an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, we don't have like that many like good connections at St. Thomas, like so that we can connect with people.
But why are you limiting yourself to the university?
have you heard of...
Where else do you go?
You go onto LinkedIn. LinkedIn is pretty much like
if
the
if
whole world comes together.
if I show you my LinkedIn, you'll see like I contact at least 20 people every day.
I think just to
Like, you
make
have
sure
an
we are
opportunity,
also
what's
like
going on?
engaging other people maybe. One thing I would say is that there is something in whatever, and it's hard, there is not one easy way. But if you tell me you've reached out to 200 companies and no response, I'm not saying no offer, and no response, it means there is something that needs to be twisted in your strategy, and Margie, and I'm sure a lot of people...
No
Right.
response.
Yeah.
I am getting response, but
Okay.
most of the responses are not positive responses. And then when I do get positive responses, it's the H1B question that arises, and which
Right.
Have you ever tried consulting?
that's the path like I don't want to go right now.
Well, you know, the point of getting into a full-time and getting your smooth sail going on, you need to start with putting your foot in the door somewhere.
Yeah.
Like especially like I don't know a lot of like electrical engineering consulting. I know like business analysts, like all the other consulting firms.
Well, I mean, you know,
And I don't want to like I want to stick with something that I know.
true. No,
what
no,
about
I'm not asking
resources
you to
from
change
University
your...
of Minnesota? Like they also have electrical engineer, right?
Were you going to ask something else earlier, Yubing? You were saying, have you heard of, you were saying something earlier, you were like, have you heard of, and then you got cut off. Were you going to share about a resource you knew about, or?
Yeah, because I feel like as an international student, I guess, yes, there can be, you know, hard to get connections or, you know, like some resources that you really want. Try to find like a career fair. Like you said, you don't have one specifically for electrical engineer, but we certainly have like a private career fair for all the...
That's only restricted to, like, only undergraduate students get access to it, no graduate students.
You know,
sorry.
Here's the deal, is the fact that before you lose out of your options and then end up in consulting, take it as the first step, get into the real world and start with one experience, because that one experience is going to make so much difference. It's going to build up your connections. It's going to give you an opportunity to prove yourself, and you never know, you might get hired by the same company you contracted with.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So
I
just
don't know
take the
about
chance.
Consulting too. So
Yeah.
That's the point.
So I do want to leave some time for Q&A for everybody if you guys have burning questions. I do want to ask one last question for you guys, and then we'll open it up for Q&A if that's good. So one last thing you either wish you would have known, or one piece of advice maybe that you've been thinking about throughout that you would like to share.
I can start.
Yeah.
So maybe one piece of advice to share, I'd say be positive and stay positive and never give up, because maybe based on my story, it sounds like I had a really, like easy access to my current career. No, that is definitely not true. I was the last one in my career, in my class who got an internship, where everybody was like having 4 or 5 offers in their hand. I was like so stressed out because I know I'm not the worst student in the class. But the thing is, when all the resources locally ran out, I tried to, apply out of the state. I applied for Swiss Re in California, and it actually ended up being I was the one who got the coolest internship among all my classmates, because Swiss Re is, one of the top insurance company in the entire world. So everybody's like, "Whoa, how you did it?" I was like, "Yeah, because I had nowhere to go." So just never give up. And so that's not, the end of the story. After the end of the internship, I was expecting I can get a full-time offer. That didn't happen either, because, later on, because of some like res program that they have internally, they actually have someone already for that spot. So unfortunately, I had to go. And then I had situations during, my first year of senior, a lot of work from school, and then I have to keep applying for jobs. But the situation is, I couldn't even get an interview because, like what happened to you, like on the paper, Yabing Yang, it speaks out. I'm an international student. So I think that's why I keep, want to convince you, don't just rely on the paper, because it's just flat. Going to like a career fair, like whatever, it can be in out of state, like just somewhere that you can get a hold of and show them like in front of them, like a 3D use to show them your attitude, your passion and everything. And then once, you can really show what you want to prove to them, and then they got convinced, I'm sure like H-1B or that kind of sponsorship, it can be as small of a question for them like than what you think they are. Because I know my boss, we went to a career fair, and then actually we, talked to one of my friends. I did not even know she would be there, but afterward we really enjoyed talking to her, and she's also Chinese. And then my boss later on asked me, is she an international student? And I said yes. And she said, does she need a sponsorship? It's okay, like we can deal with it. So that's the response, like in their door, like their conversation in between. So it's not something that big of a deal for some company. And you want to think, okay, this company is so strict about their rules, like even though you're in front of them, like in an interview, and then they ask you, do you need a sponsorship? You said no, and then they kick you out of the door. That actually happened to me with Liberty Mutual. That gives me a signal, because I want to stay positive. I don't want to think that I am not worth the value in myself. I think because this company, they're closed-minded. A lot of companies, if they're open-minded, I'm sure they're willing to, diversify their, people in the company, because it's fun. And if you bring different culture, it means different perspective. In the long run, it's good for them. So if they have an open mindset, like what we think, like, why not? Why not just give you a sponsorship? It's not a lot of money for them. Like they like my company, they even hire an attorney to do all my work for me. So all I did just compile, like print on my passport, that's it. Right. And now they're actually moving on to the stage of helping me to get my green card. Just because I went into my manager's room, I told her, yes, I got my H-1B. And then she said, oh, what's next step? So
love it.
Once you get the in, yeah, and they believe in you.
Yes.
Potential, absolutely.
Yeah, so just go out there and prove yourself, and don't give up, because actually, the day before I received a phone call from my current company, asked me to go for an interview, I actually walked into my professor's door and said, probably I should think about applying for grad school because I was almost giving up on keep applying because I thought there was no way, but the next day, voila. So just never give up.
Does anybody else want to share any last piece before we open it up for questions?
Yeah.
About 7 more minutes total.
My piece of advice would be just don't think about the present. Definitely think at least 2 to 3 steps ahead of what's going to happen. Because when you come up with something that's unplanned about your career or anything visa related, you just shouldn't feel like you did the most dumb thing of not taking advantage of the time you had right now. Because this is the most safe time you're going to be, because once you're graduated, you will be on your toes like that from various different perspectives of life, like your job, your visa, maybe because you start earning so good, you want to buy an expensive car. So it just builds up, okay? So take advantage of the time you have and plan for your future. That's the most wise way of doing things here.
And I just want to add one more thing too. I think that in today's political environment and just Minnesota, where there's so little small international community, it's easy to think that being international puts you behind, and it does make the journey a little harder. But if there's one thing I've learned and one thing I can tell all of you is that being international makes you more unique. It makes you stand out. You know a different language. You can adapt better than a lot of your counterparts to situations. You've adapted to living in a new country, to being in a new school, to being in uncomfortable situations. You know different cultures, you know different languages, you know social cues. You have an amazing education through St. Thomas. So just view it as a strength and know how to leverage it. I mean, as you were saying, they'd be lucky, right? They'd be lucky to have a difference in their company. I know that 3M has a goal that by 2050, they want half of their workforce to be diverse. A lot of companies are taking initiatives like this, so use it to the betterment of yourself. Use it as a skill.
I was going to say, the one thing that I would say, internships, take advantage of those. Like, when you apply to be an intern, your level of leverage is very different than someone who is looking for a full-time job. And internship opportunities or those programs for students allow you to see what you can do, So when it's time to look for internship opportunities, or even when you're really take advantage of that, when the summer or J-term or whatever, balance that with, I want a full-time job, but also look at those internship opportunities or contractor type roles, which may be short time, and that's how it appears that they are short term. That's what makes them see what you're capable of. So take advantage of that, because I think that gets you through the door. The second quick thing I would like to say, one of the other things that I did was internal networking. To be honest, I wasn't so great at the coffees. I wasn't so great in school to meet with people. For some reason, I just was not so great at that. So, but once I got my opportunity through the internship, and I did get a lot of rejections because I did a lot of the computer stuff, but I managed to get the internship. I met with a lot of different directors, so I got a lot of different people who I either had speak somewhere or there is something where I felt a connection with them. Had a 30-minute meeting with them. One of them declined 15 times, but I still would reschedule and reschedule and reschedule. It ended up he's the one who had the line of funding when it came for me getting my job. So the internal networking, I didn't have a job. I wasn't looking for a job, but I would meet with them, have mentor-type questions ready. So when it was time for a full-time position, there was nothing open. They created the role for me. They just created a new role, put on payroll, nothing about H-1B. So what I'm saying is that when you take advantage, talk to other people. This can be really stressful. And I don't know your name, my friend, but stop seeing just the roadblocks. Twist that by saying, okay, electrical engineering doesn't have that many opportunities for career fairs. Where can I go to? Right. Turn everything you're seeing as a roadblock into an opportunity. Right. Because right now, the vibe that I'm getting from you, I'm curious, but I'm like, I don't believe that. I'll be honest with you. I won't believe that. Because, no, not in a bad way. I'm just saying, look at all, because, I've cried. There is an offer that I got, and I didn't get it. I was like rejoicing I got the internship, and then HR said, just to be clear, do you now or in the future need sponsorship? And I had to write an email saying, well, no, but blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of it. They're like, oh, we are sorry. And I had already rejoiced. So yeah, I did cry for that one. But see, you know, I wish you guys all the best. Please don't give up is the one last thing that I would say.
Yeah.
Reach out to us anytime sometimes if you just need to chat and get a little bit of inspiration.
Perfect. That's a great segue, Latifah. Thanks. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. So here is some contact information if you do have follow-up specific questions, and we do have 2 minutes. I saw a hand. Yep. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I just want to ask a little bit more about connection. Like you guys mentioned, like putting yourself out there. Is it? Can you elaborate more about that? Is it like school or an on-campus job, or what kind of resources did you guys use to like be more connected, essentially, and network?
Well, I would say that the first thing you can do that will attract a lot of people who want to communicate with you is put out on your first line under your LinkedIn profile that you're actively seeking opportunities. That will go a long way because people who are looking for similar talent would search by it. They have that option on LinkedIn. And second off, you can go out looking for recruiters in your particular specialization and see if you can, send them an email or just connect with them, send them a note and say, hey, I see that you're working here. That is so awesome. I love this company. I would like to know more. Can we catch up for coffee? Just do that at least for, I'd say, 5 people every day, and I'm sure that you will get responses because people always appreciate initiation, and it should happen through people who are seeking for jobs.
And I'm
That's
not
what I
sure.
meant.
Sorry, not sure what major are you, but are you undergrad?
Yeah, so I'm sophomore and I major in sociology and economics.
Okay. Not sure about your major specifically, but what happened. Like I know our department she has a lot of connections. So she literally have a book that lists every single alumni who graduated from our actual program. So like you can literally like go talk to her and say, oh, is there any person that you think it'd be good for me to have a coffee, know more about the industry? I think that's a very easy something for you to do, right? And I think you can just go from there.
Is this the department chair in the undergraduate?
Sorry, was that?
Is this the department chair of which major?
For me, actuarial science. Yeah.
And it's not just actuarial science.
Yeah, I mean,
Utilize your connections on campus because you never know who somebody knows. It's
yeah.
a friend of a friend, so you never know. So you might
Yeah.
as well just like make a positive connection with literally everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any
Ex-
last minute? Thank you, Yabang. Is there any last minute thoughts? We can take one more, and then we got to switch on to the next thing.
Can I just add something more to that
Sure.
answer or to that question? So that's a really good question because it's how do I act on this? I don't know if you know, I actually found my opportunity at where I work now through the mentorship program that St. Thomas has and also the Take a Tommy to Lunch. Those are 2 really good programs that that I used a lot. I took a lot of Tommy alumni to lunch when I was an undergrad. And if you do get an acceptance to go to coffee, don't just show up and be like, hi, I want a job. That's the last thing you should bring up. Have a plan. Look up on Forbes, different resources, and have intentional questions. People like to talk about themselves. Ask them about themselves, their career path, how they got where they are. Don't just expect that, oh, we have similar interests. One mistake I made one time is I asked a lady from the Dominican Republic to get coffee with me, and I was like, oh, she's from the Dominican Republic, I'm from the Dominican, we're from the same city, we're gonna be best friends. Hi. Didn't have a plan, terrible idea. So just have a plan, have questions, have your notes out, a pen, a pencil, and follow up with a thank you. Just make sure that when you do have these coffees, it's intentional.
Yeah.
Go with a plan.
I like the follow up with the thank you. That's really important. Again, like coffee's great. Yeah, coffee.
No
tea,
one is
chocolate.
saying tea. That's the irony. I love tea, but everyone's like, get a coffee. Well, get some tea too
They
if you
can
love
drink
tea.
coffee. You buy yourself tea. You pay for it. And there you go. We'll do one last question and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
My question is a little specific to the interviewing process. Could you all must have gone through. But it's because I'm from the software engineering background. I just want to know, like back in India where I did had the interview and everything, we had some kind of technical questions like writing a program or something like that. So did you guys also had that experience over here? I don't know what kind of interviews, what pattern of interviews do you would you guys suggest something like that?
I mean, for my interview, and we had very technical questions being asked at us. So I had an interview in person and then a couple more phone interviews, and they did ask me technical questions, and it's just they're mainly trying to see how they don't expect you to know the answers to like the questions that like they're asking you all the time from my experience, but they want to see how you deal with problems. So in engineering, I mean, a lot of engineers, I'd like to say, I think that we really don't know how to communicate very well, and that is not just, maybe it's just my problem, but that is
you're doing a fantastic job.
It's a problem that I've seen, and they really want to know, like, you're faced with this problem, because when you come out with an engineering degree or software engineering degree or software, whatever you were doing, is that you are presented with a problem, and then your schooling teaches you how can you attack this problem. They want to see how well you can do that, and that's what they asked me. They're like, well, we have this project, we have this scenario. How do you deal with this? And then really, like, I answered it to the best of my ability, and mostly they want to see good leadership, and they want to see how, like, are you cool under like stressful situations, and mostly, like, are you easy to work with? Like, they ask you like team issues, like those kind of questions. They ask you like, you have a project due, how do you deal with this? So like they ask you how well you can work with people, because their team culture, like their company culture, like they want to keep that company culture, so they want someone that fits that culture. So it's not, don't be like so scared, oh my gosh, what are they gonna ask me? But it was more of like, they asked me that, okay, so how do I deal with that? And it was, yeah, so it's not like much you can prepare, but it's just how you deal with problems. And yeah.
Another quick one I'll say about interview process, at least my process, Google. Google will tell you almost anything about any role and anything, and they'll give you like sample questions. So for my instance, in my world, I have at least 20 questions. For any interview that I'll ever have, I have the answers already drafted. They're in a certain folder. So all I have to do, if I have a new opportunity, I will go search, tweak the answers specific to that opportunity and that company. Then guess what I do? I talk to myself. So Latifa, tell me about yourself. And I'm serious. So I will spend at least 1 or 2 hours talk to myself, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm rambling, you know. Yeah. Then I do it and do it and do it. So it's not just a matter of like show up, and you need to really, really prepare. I think it gives you confidence. So even when you're asked questions, that you can borrow whatever material is in the back of you, and borrow from some of that. All my friends that I coach for interviews, I encourage them to create their interview guide, talk it out loud, and practice, and it really helps. I don't know about the technical stuff, but I know like Glassdoor and some of those websites, you can put in interview questions for electrical, I'm making this up, engineer. And they don't give you everything, right? They won't give you everything, but they'll give you some few snippets and, things. And then take advantages of other international students. We know the hustle. So if you're interested in Coloplast and you're saying, Latifa, I'm interviewing, what kind of things should I be aware of? Then, another person, go to I believe St. Thomas has graduated many graduates. So if you go to the career office, someone is going to tell you someone who has done what you've done. We graduate people every single year. So I don't believe that we don't have connections. We have many of them. Take advantage of them.
Yeah. Well, another important thing is, it's good that you're in this program, because the way the course has been designed at the University of St. Thomas is you do a project on every single course that you take, and that really helps for you to explain in your interview the kind of practical knowledge you gain through your project, right? So even if you don't have any experience, completely new to the industry, just say, if it's a matter of, let's say, Java, right? You did a program software engineering first course, you do a Java project. I still remember. Okay. Just take that as an example and try to pair up at least one example to every job responsibility that's written in the huge job description bulletin points, and try to make up one example that you can relate yourself to the job description and try to give them that example. People always appreciate practical examples over bookish knowledge.
Yes.
And end of the day, it's not in our control, so just stay positive.
Yeah.
On that note, awesome. Yeah, Career Series, your friend, career development. So they're going to kind of take over now, and they're going to come do a networking session. If you have more questions, you can contact email, you can contact me if you're not sure, or Miho, and we're happy to help you guys with whatever you need. Thank you guys so much for sharing. It's awesome.